Edition of Tucker Carlson tonight. If you're a regular viewer of this show, you know we've covered the horse meat question pretty thoroughly. Not exactly sure why. Nobody else is, I guess. We've had proponents and opponents of horse meat eating on this show. One of our viewers, though, was outraged by the whole thing, not just because he believes horse eating is wrong, but because he believes eating any meat is wrong. Gene Bauer is the author of Living the Farm Sanctuary Life. He's a vegan activist. He thinks we need to quit eating meat entirely, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Bauer, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker. Really appreciate it.
So you've got your views about what we ought to be eating. I do too. I love burrata. But I'm not trying to force anybody else to eat burrata. It seems to be taking kind of a large step to assume you have the right to tell other people what to eat. Why are you doing that?
Well, I'm actually not telling other people what they must or must not eat. I just want people to think more about their food choices and recognize the consequences of those, and also to recognize that not eating animals is actually an option we have. You know, we grow up believing we need meat for protein, but in fact we can live well without it. So it's a choice we each need to make, but we should make informed choices.
I don't think it's a crazy idea, and I love animals, and I don't like the way factory farms treat animals, so I'm kind of sympathetic to what you're saying. And then I meet people who are vegan, and one, there's a super high level of fussiness, which I find a major turnoff. And two, they all look pretty easy to push over. So you can't tell me that it's that good for you if they all look like they fall over in the wind, right?
Well, we are certainly a passionate group, us vegans, but not all vegans are that skinny. In fact, the only U.S. male weightlifter who qualified for the Olympics in Rio is a vegan. And there are amazing vegan bodybuilders and athletes. Scott Jurek, a legendary ultra runner, vegan. So vegans, can be very healthy as well.
Interesting. Huh. Well, you make a compelling case. So, but get to the fussiness point. I mean, I've never met a vegan who didn't spend like at least 70% of the day thinking about food. Well, you don't want to spend your whole life thinking about food, right?
Well, I don't, and I think, maybe the vegans you're meeting are mainly talking about it, or the ones that say they're vegan are the ones that are talking about it. But there are many vegans that you wouldn't know are vegan. And as a vegan, for me, it's really about living as compassionately as possible, not participating in unnecessary suffering. And if we can live well without causing harm to other animals, why wouldn't we? So
well, I agree. You know what? I agree with you. I'm just going to say it. I agree with you completely there. But since most people are not going to stop eating meat, and meat is delicious, why not make an effort to push the companies that are causing undue suffering, unnecessary suffering among animals, really mistreating them, actually, to clean up their act a little bit? Instead of giving up meat entirely, why not push these big factory farms to knock it off?
Yes, well, I think that's important as well, and we do support campaigns to limit the suffering on factory farms. And so we've been involved in legislative efforts to give animals more space, for example, so they're not confined so tightly they can't even turn around. So we do that, as well as work to encourage people to recognize we can live well eating plants instead of animals.
But you say, and that's the other question I have, that I actually don't understand it. So I love cheese. I like meat too, but I really love cheese. I'm not giving up burrata, period, or cheddar, period. Why is that harming animals to eat dairy? I don't understand that.
Well, in order for a cow to produce milk, she has to have a baby, and the babies are taken away at birth. And in some cases, they're raised to become veal. If it's a male calf born on a dairy farm, they're useless. So they are actually raised to become veal calves. And so dairy cows have it pretty rough. And then when they're no longer profitable on the dairy, they're sent to slaughter and usually killed at about 3 or 4 years old.
Okay, but I mean, veal's a separate question. I mean, you could humanely milk a cow. It's not abuse to milk a cow.
Well,
but also it's an emphasis thing. So China has an entire festival dedicated to murdering dogs, which is, I mean, I think a reason to institute sanctions against China, at very least. But no one ever says anything about it because they're hassling Tyson chicken. Not that you shouldn't hassle Tyson, but let's start with the Chinese, no?
No, well, I agree that what happens to dogs in China is horrible. But, a Chinese company now owns Smithfield, a huge pork industry company here. So, I think kindness is important across the board, across the world. And in the U.S., we have a lot of work to do, but I agree we also need to be working on other countries and encouraging that humane policies be enacted there, too.
So let me just end with this question, because I think it opens up an interesting topic. You're saying that we shouldn't be cruel to animals, and I agree with you completely, and I hope other conservatives would pause and think about it, because I think a lot of them would agree. We've been trained in some ways to defend Tyson. We shouldn't defend Tyson. But That's different from saying we have no moral right to eat animals. I think most people believe that we have dominion over the animals. Well, and so if you were starving on a mountain somewhere and a goat was all you had, would you kill the goat and eat him, or would you starve, honestly?
Well, that's a good fundamental question to think through. And right now, you know, we have plenty of food, and it's not really an issue we need to worry about. But if it were, you know, I think most people would try to survive. We really have a desire to survive. But in some cases, you know, if you kill and eat the goat, then you have no more meat. But if you have that goat as a companion, you enjoy life.
I get it. No, but those are practical questions. I want to get to the root question, the moral question. Do we have dominion over the animals, or are they our peers? Are they the same as people?
We have power over other animals, and I think with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility.
I agree with that.
So we can kill them, but whether we should kill them is a bigger question.
Okay. You know, I have to say, I started this segment thinking this guy's probably crazy, but I think you're actually reasonable and thoughtful. And I don't agree with everything you've said, but I appreciate your coming on tonight.
And I appreciate your concern about animals and your open-mindedness to these issues.
I love animals. We shouldn't mistreat them. I agree with that.